Hi everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. I'm Laura, and today I wanted to take you through a walkthrough of some of my favorite PM books, as well as some of my upcoming reads to learn more about the PM role and my next steps in my career. If you're an incoming product manager, or you're simply interested in learning more about product management, or you even have a friend going into product management that you really want to psych up, let's discuss which reads will give you the best bang for your buck. A quick disclaimer, I only have a few of these books in physical format, so I won't be able to show all of them for you. But the first section I want to tackle is for interview preparation. The first book is Cracking the PM Interview, written by Gail McDowell and Jackie Bavaro. It has the infamous Cracking the Blank interview, which you may or might know from Cracking the Coding Interview. This book is really going to be your bread and butter for PM interview preparation. If you've even looked remotely into interview preparation, you probably know who Gail McDowell is, and you've probably also read of, or at least heard of her other book, Cracking the Coding Interview. It has the infamous green cover that everyone hates. But for Cracking the PM Interview specifically, this book will walk you through everything you need to know to, crack the PM interview. It walks you through a summary of what product management is, as well as some of the major companies that offer product management roles, such as Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Amazon. It dives a lot more into talking about resumes and cover letters as well, which can be a helpful resource because there aren't many other books that actually do that, along with preparing you for the interview itself. It also covers a huge swath of different questions, so some common questions like estimation questions, looking at metrics, and also just theoretical design a product for me kind of questions. It is definitely not as long of a read as Cracking the Coding Interview, in case you're wondering. It's honestly a much thinner book. There just aren't as many practice questions, I think, as the Cracking the Coding Interview book. Of course, with coding interviews, it's easy to just throw out tons of questions in there, whereas with product management roles, it's kind of easy to predict, at least at the new grad level, what kind of questions you'll be asked. So for the pros and cons of this book, I would say that the pros are it definitely covers a large amount of questions, as I mentioned, and again, it takes you from A to Z of basically how to do the PM interview. A con is, though, I just really didn't vibe too much with Gail McDowell's writing style. It felt a bit dry at times, and it was kind of hard to get through. That being said, though, I would still highly recommend you get through Cracking the PM Interview if you are interested in going through interviews for the product management role or internship. So the next book for interview preparation is going to be Decode and Conquer. I don't have a physical copy of this book, but it's a pretty short read. For me, I didn't actually end up reading the book cover to cover. It was more of one of those books where I skimmed and picked through the resources as I felt appropriate. However, if you are completely new to interviewing as a product management intern or new grad, I would recommend that you look into reading the whole book. So Decode and Conquer is a book written by Louis C. Lin, who is a pretty popular author, at least in the PM sphere. He isn't, your mainstream Murakami or anything like that, but he is a really engaging and interactive author in my opinion, and I really enjoyed reading his books because they were both shorter and also packed with a lot of information as well. For Decode and Conquer specifically, he really does walk you through some good frameworks on how to structure and answer your questions, and bringing those frameworks forward with you when you're answering these kinds of questions yourself. In terms of pros and cons, I really liked Decode and Conquer because similar to Cracking the PM Interview, it covered a lot of different questions, although Decode and Conquer was specifically focused on the product design questions. It also has different levels of answers, which I thought was super interesting, and it goes over what is a good answer, a bad answer, and also just a average or decent answer. In terms of the cons, it was a pretty short book, and I think that it would have been really helpful to have more good answers, or at least suggestions on how to bring up those bad or mediocre answers into the good or great range or sphere. Louis C. Lin is also pretty popular on LinkedIn, posting just random PM tidbits and advice here and there, and I tried adding him. He didn't accept my request yet, but soon, or at least, I'll get over it pretty soon too. Okay, so this next book that I'm about to mention kind of falls between interview preparation and also just for learning more about product management. So as a spoiler alert, the next section is for learning about product management, so I'll segue with this book. The next book I want to talk about is called Product Management's Sacred Seven by Neil Mehta, Parth Destroja, and Aditya Agash. Okay, this book is a hefty one. It looks really scary. It's a pretty large book, and it rings in close to 700 pages. This book is written by the authors of Swipe to Unlock, if you're familiar with that book, but basically it is a more mature read, I think, than Swipe to Unlock. The authors are 3 PMs, one from Microsoft, one from Facebook, and one from Google. This book talks about a wide breadth of information in different fields that, if you're pretty new to product management, will be a really great introductory read. Just to give you a quick preview, the back panel reads, We interviewed 67 product leads and hiring managers from 52 top companies across 14 countries, ranging from all the usual FAANG suspects to darling unicorns such as Coinbase, TikTok, and Grab. We asked everyone 2 simple questions. 1. What knowledge separates the interview candidates you hire from those you don't? 2. What hard skills help PMs advance their careers the fastest? As you can see, they're really PMs because they are capitalizing on those metrics in that quick back summary. Anyways, this book covers the 7 areas of product design, economics, psychology, user experience or UX, data science and data analytics, law and tech policy, and finally marketing and growth hacking. Individually, I would say that those are all pretty interesting subjects, and I would definitely vouch for the fact that being a PM, you do have to dip your toes into all of these different areas, or at the very least, be working with people in all these different areas. As far as pros and cons go, obviously the pro is that this book targets a lot of different areas. Again, you'll notice that this is kind of a trend of good PM books in my opinion. Or, maybe that also just speaks to how wide of a role PMs have in the influence of a product and organization. It is also definitely a great read if you're going into product management and you want to have an idea of what you're going into. In terms of cons, I felt like there's a decent amount of filler content for the 700 pages, and for being 700 pages, I feel like I should have gotten a little bit more content or book for my money. I think this was about $35 on Amazon, and it's probably my most expensive book that I have right now, so take of that what you will. Regardless though, I will probably be going back and rereading this book as I approach my new job more. Okay, so formally for learning more about product management is this next book, also by Louis Seelan. It's called Be the Greatest Product Manager Ever, Master 6 Proven Skills to Get the Career You Want. This book is a high-level overview of the product management role, and it's a very digestible, super easy read, and it's very engaging as well. It's about 160 pages, but trust me, I went through this book in about 2 days, and I wasn't a very serious reader when I was starting to read this book either. I would probably recommend this more as an introductory read to product management than The Sacred 7 if you are kind of on the fence about product management, or you generally just want to learn more and be more knowledgeable. It really gets you thinking about what's possible for you as a PM and the soft skills or micro skills that are really needed to help level up your career and be the best product management ever, as the title says. It got me really excited about the product management role, and it was one of the things that tipped me into the product management camp instead of going into software engineering. Pros and cons. Pro, this was a very straightforward and easy read, engaging, and I generally just really like the way that Louis Seelan writes. These books are also very easy to take notes from just because of how they're structured, and I'm happy to also share my notes from this book if people are interested. Cons, I don't really have too many cons. Maybe this book was a little bit too straightforward and simplified, but I don't think I can fault Louis for that one. Okay, so these next 4 are books that I actually haven't read yet, but I'm really excited to, and they're next on my reading list. The next book that I want to highlight is The Lean Product Playbook, How to Innovate with Minimum Viable Products and Rapid Customer Feedback by Dan Olson. This is a book that I started reading, but then I got sidetracked and I kind of forgot to go back to it. It really does seem like a good holistic book though, just preparing you to create a product and designing the minimal viable product or MVP, and also how to get in touch with your customers and learn what your customers want for your product. I initially picked up this book to learn more about product lifecycle and how to create a more well-liked product because I know that this is going to be something that is essential for my job, and as a college student, I don't really have too much experience in this area. Dan Olson also does a really good job of explaining some fundamental PM concepts like product market fit. Again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just go read this book and you'll be probably more educated than I will because you'll have finished reading this book before I have. I think Dan Olson's writing style is pretty engaging and interactive, but do be warned that I do think that this book is on the longer side. Next is Inspired, How to Create Tech Products Customers Love by Marty Kagan. I recently went to a talk by a current Microsoft PM, and he really discussed how important customers are to the lifeblood of a product. And of course, customers are who are using your product, buying your product, and telling other people about your product. So I think it's super important for to-be product managers or aspiring product managers to learn how to get in touch with customers and really understand what customers are looking for you from your product. Quickly, another book that I want to highlight is Cracking the PM Career. This one is written also by Gail McDowell. I don't really know too much about this book. It is a new release by her, so I will be checking this out very soon as some more reviews start pouring in and I decide if it's a good enough read or not. Lastly, the last book that I want to highlight is called Radical Candor, How to Get What You Want by Saying What You Mean by Kim Scott. I'm really interested in moving up into people management as a product manager, And I've heard great things about this book in terms of how to approach management and just having conversations with people around you and the people that you're managing. This book has definitely received a lot of high praise, but I do hope that it lives up to the hype. I'm someone that can struggle a lot with being open and communicative when it deals with people that I care about or people that I have personal connections or relationships with. Hopefully this will be a guide to help me be more open and honest and learn how to approach these conversations tactfully without feeling guilty or feeling bad for receiving feedback or anything like that. Honestly though, in general, if you aren't a huge reader, I totally get it. I wasn't a huge reader until a year or two ago, and again, it was just something that I picked up when I was bored or as a general hobby to do during the summer when I felt like I had more free time. However, after picking up a couple physical copies of books and really delving myself into the world of books again, I've really learned the power though of just taking lessons from these kinds of books. These people have been in your shoes before where they've been super naive, walking these conversations and engagements and deals that they really don't know what they're doing. Of course, they're writing this book to share their wisdom and let us know how we can avoid those mistakes. As this video comes to a close, I really want to highlight my gratefulness for everyone that has been supporting my channel in the past few months as I continue to figure it out and also just grow as a content creator and figure out how to make my videos better. I always love receiving feedback, so please be honest with me in the comments and let me know if there's anything I can do to improve my video quality. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking this video and also subscribing to my channel to stay updated on the kinds of videos that I'll be releasing next. I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Hey, what you talking about? There ain't nothing like the real